Moving on, Zimbabwe's president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, has summoned local business executives to a meeting next week in a bid to stabilize the price of basic commodities. In June, annual inflation stood at 176%, and estimates suggest it could be above 200%. There are fears that the country could be sliding back in hyperinflation. President Mnangagwa, while addressing local leaders, is quoted as saying that the government sees no justification for the high prices, and he wants to hear the challenges being faced by the business community. He also accuses the country's striking doctors of working with external forces to destabilize the health sector. One of the doctors' complaints is that their salaries have not kept up with inflation. Now, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has fired all the board members of the Kenya ferry services. This follows the death of a woman and her child 2 weeks ago after the car slid and sank into the busy Likoni ferry channel in the coastal city of Mombasa. Efforts to recover the bodies and the car was seen as sluggish, with the ferry authorities coming under sharp criticism for how they handled the operation. At some point, divers from South Africa and India were called in to help those from Kenya Navy who lacked proper equipment to retrieve the car. The family of the deceased have since indicated that they will sue the Kenya ferry services for negligence. The ferry service has often been accused of operating dilapidated vessels, some of which have been condemned as unseaworthy. A proposal to build a bridge across the channel has also been shrouded in delays, mystery and corruption allegations, much like many other mega infrastructure projects in the country. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has called his leading critic, musician turned politician Bobi Wine, an enemy of the country's prosperity. The 36-year-old, also known as the ghetto president, has been a thorn in the side of Mr. Museveni since his election as MP in 2017. Bobi Wine, whose real name is Robert Kyagulanyi, recently declared that he would challenge 75-year-old Mr. Museveni for the presidency in the 2021 election. He is the leader of the People Power movement, which accuses the president of overseeing a system of oppression during his 33 years in power. Mr. Museveni rejects the accusation, saying that his government is not repressive, but was dealing with Bobi Wine as an enemy. A senior former politician from the Gambia has admitted to the country's Truth Commission that he was responsible for the execution of soldiers accused of trying to topple the former president, Yahya Jammeh. Edward Singate was one of the 4 junior officers who carried out the coup in 1994 that brought Mr. Jammeh to power. Months later, 11 soldiers were accused of launching a counter-coup. Mr. Singate told the Truth Commission that he and Mr. Jammeh had agreed to execute the soldiers, although he says he did not fire the shots. The commission is investigating alleged right abuses during Mr. Jammeh's 22-year rule. He went into exile in 2017 after losing an election. Now to the migrants crisis. The UN Refugee Agency says it is unable to resettle the majority of migrants and refugees stuck at a transit center in the Libyan capital, Tripoli. There's been growing frustration among the migrants, as only a handful of them have been evacuated to Rwanda. Rwanda had offered to take in 500 of the migrants, but that leaves thousands behind. This week, the migrants have been holding protests, but the UNHCR says they have nowhere to take them.
The migrants, who are mainly from Eritrea, Ethiopia and Somalia, left their countries hoping to get to Europe, but are now stuck in war-torn Libya, where they have faced torture. There have been growing frustrations at the gathering and departure facility in Tripoli, which is meant to be a transit center where evacuees spend a day or two waiting to be moved. But many have been there for over 3 months now.
But I can tell you there are equally people in need outside detention center. So we try to balance more and more resettlement from detention and resettlement from outside detention. Because inside detention center, it's also, you have 2 categories of people. You have people who have been intercepted when they try to leave Libya by sea on boats, and they have been brought back to detention center. And you have desperate individuals who go to detention center. Sometimes they pay to get inside detention center.
The UN says many are also very desperate, as some are bribing their way into detention centers in the hope of eventually being resettled.
Some people don't feel safe in many urban centers in Libya. So some of them prefer to be detained, even if the conditions are not good in those detention centers. Others try to bribe their way to get inside the detention center in the hope that UNHCR will resettle them.
Forces loyal to Eastern-based Commander Khalifa Haftar launched an offensive in April to try to wrest control of Tripoli from forces aligned with the internationally recognized government, which is based in the capital. Despite continued shelling and air attacks, few countries have agreed to take refugees out of Libya, where fighting has killed more than 1,000 people and displaced 28,000. The North African country is host to 45,000 registered refugees and asylum seekers, as well as an estimated 650,000 migrants.
The government in Egypt has banned a pilot for life for allowing a famous actor to sit in the cockpit on a private flight to the Saudi capital, Riyadh. The Ministry of Civil Aviation said it had conducted an investigation after the actor, Mohammed Ramadan, posted on social media a video of himself sitting in the co-pilot's seat and holding the controls while saying he's flying the aircraft. The co-pilot has been suspended for 1 year and the airline's chief executive has resigned. The ministry said air safety was paramount. So ahead on the program, our Africa Tech segment takes a look at boosting the digital economy. That's in a moment. Stay with us.